It is the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Welcome in to our homes, where we will be for the next couple of hours, bringing you local, regional, and national sports talk. And excited to do so. First, before we go any further, just want to send out our hopes that everybody sustained minimal at best damage during last night's rough weather conditions. I know I was up about half the night between sirens and phone alerts and that kind of thing. So it was really rough across a lot of places in Middle Tennessee, and just hope everybody's doing okay. Obviously, we're going to try to get through this next couple of hours without dozing off. So.
Yeah, hopefully provide a little sense of back to normal, a little levity, to the program today, because it was a rough night for much of the mid-state, much of the state, really. Crazy stuff. A tornado in Arkansas looked like literally a scene out of the movie Twister. And, man, it was just – these storms are rough, and it's that time of the year where you just got to be on your weather alert. So kudos to everybody that was working late last night to make sure we could stay safe.
Late last night, early this morning for sure. And you could tell, just being outside last night, as warm and as humid as it was, it felt like something was coming, and sure enough, it did. We still kind of got some floodwaters around here in Franklin that haven't quite receded yet. But again, hoping everybody's doing okay, and hope we can maybe provide a little bit of a diversion here for the next couple of hours as we talk some sports. Looking forward to visiting in our second hour with Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City, talking a little NASCAR, getting caught up from this past weekend, getting ready for the upcoming weekend on the Cup Series. In the next segment on Coach's Corner, we will be joined by Larry NESBITT of Christ Presbyterian Academy Baseball. The Lions ranked number 1 in the state by the Tennessee Baseball Coaches Association in Division II AA, and they've run into kind of a rough patch, I guess, here in their last couple of games, but they had run off a pretty good bunch of wins there. We'll check in with him and see what the Lions have got going on up there off Old Hickory Boulevard. So looking forward to talking to him here in the next segment. We'll also talk some NFL, a little Major League Baseball. We'll get into some hoops as well. Obviously, a lot going on both on and off the court there. And it is Throwback Thursday. At the top of the 3 o'clock hour, we'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation that we had with JAMESETTA Cleveland of Sports Mom U. We love talking to JAMESETTA because she's such a wealth of knowledge about the kind of the business of college sports. So looking forward to that throwback here again at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. So again, great show, as we like to think it is every day. And Wade, what do you say we go ahead and get into it?
Hey, let's do it, baby.
Let's do it. Let's give the people yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Strap in, folks. Buckle up. Whatever you got to do to get seated, because the rundown is here on this Thursday. And we start the rundown with baseball scores from last night. A few games on the docket. A few games did get played, and we've got your results here. Brentwood defeated Independence 15-3. Rossview and CPA, speaking of the lines, that 1-1 final result. Maybe we'll get a first-hand account on what kind of transpired there, but we show a final score of 1-1. Between Rossview and CPA. Other scores: Green Hill was a 3-0 winner versus Gallatin. Tullahoma took care of Giles County 11-3. Cookeville blanked Laverne 11-0. Nolensville dispatching Centennial 7-4. It was Page on top of Franklin 12-1 last night. Summit with a 3-1 win versus Ravenwood. Rockvale 5-0 versus Oakland. Siegel picks up a 5-4 win versus Riverdale. Rounding the horn here and heading for home, it is Watertown 3, Smith County 2. Spring Hill with a nice win, 4-3 over Lincoln County. And Columbia starts the Mule Day party just right with a 9-2 win versus Warren County.
There you go. Softball action from yesterday. East Robertson with an 11-5 win over Gallatin. Tullahoma outslugged Siegel yesterday, 11-10. Station Camp and Wilson Central, they show a 0-0 tie. I'm thinking that's a game that did not get played, but Stewart's Creek and Wilson Central played a 7-1 ball game in favor of the Lady Redhawks. So who knows? Women's basketball. The Women's Basketball Invitational Tournament is in the books, unfortunately for Belmont, as they fell to the Golden Gophers of Minnesota, 75-63. More about that one later in the show. Major League Baseball action. The Giants once again get Houston 6-3. The Dodgers once again get Atlanta 6-5. We'll talk more about both those later on. And as we mentioned to you yesterday, down at Lawrenceville, Georgia, the Gwinnett Stripers, 1P, defeated the Nashville Sounds 4-1 in a 10 o'clock start yesterday.
That brings us whole on the results from last night. Let's get you guys the schedule for this afternoon. Baseball game, buyer beware on all of these, Mo, right? Subject to change, subject to be played whatsoever. But UHA is set to meet Mount Juliet at 2:45. Christian County and Dixon County is set to follow shortly after at 3 p.m. At 4 o'clock, we have a scheduled game between Glencliff at Maplewood. John Overton is set to travel to Mount Juliet Christian. These are 4:30 starts here. DCA at Good Pasture, now into 5 o'clock, where Creekwood is on the road at Waverly. Lawrence County, Kentucky is at Fulton. CPA is traveling to Davidson Academy. Watertown is on the road at DeKalb County at 5:30. Other 5:30 start time is Westmoreland at Franklin Simpson out of Kentucky. A 6 o'clock start time for a lot of these games. Mount Pleasant at Collinwood, Antioch at Ezell Harding, Richland at Forest, Zion Christian at Franklin Christian, Rockvale on the road tonight at Oakland. Siegel is set to head to Riverdale this evening at 6:30 now. Fairview is at Spring Hill. Greenbrier is set to travel to Springfield. Middle Tennessee Monarchs will be at Christian Community. Capping our 6:30 window, Noblesville, Indiana is set to meet in Clarksville versus Clarksville Academy. 7 o'clock showdown tonight between Blackman and Coffee County. Summertown at Columbia Academy. I forgot a few 6:30 starts, but we don't want to leave anybody out. Heritage versus Middle Tennessee Christian. Smith County at Providence Christian. Both of those, again, at 6:30. Also at 7 tonight, Lebanon is at Stone Memorial. And at 7:30, you have Portland versus Anderson County. We don't have start times for these games, but we show Eagleville at Lenoir City, and we see Loretto going north to take on Scotts Hill, I guess.
West.
Yeah, a little west.
Probably a little north, more west than north, but yeah, definitely. They're definitely traveling.
Definitely traveling, and definitely, again, folks, double check these games before you head out.
Caveat emptor. Buyer beware. 5 o'clock softball action has Gallatin at Beach in a Sumner County showdown. Also at 5, Harpeth travels to Creekwood. Macon County is at Greenbrier. Overton is hosting McGavock. Columbia Central travels to Lincoln County. Loretto taking on visiting Mount Pleasant. Nolensville goes to Summit. Again, all of those 5 o'clock starts proposed. At 5:30, Westmoreland is at Trousdale County. Webb School is at Columbia Academy. Donaldson Christian travels to Ezell Harding at 6, and at 6:30, Lebanon is at Wilson Central. On the pitch, boys soccer action. It's a 5 o'clock first touch for Ezell Harding at Donaldson Christian. Also at 5, University School of Nashville goes to Providence Christian. Wayne County hosts Loretto at 6. Also at 6, Hewitt-Trussville of Alabama takes on Columbia Central. Watertown is at DeKalb County at 6. Maplewood goes to Lawson at 6. Portland is at Macon County at 6. At 7 o'clock, White House hosts Greenbrier. St. George's meets Rockvale at 8. And also at 8 o'clock, Hazel Green of Alabama takes on Columbia Academy. Major League Baseball, the Astros begin a series with the Twins in Minnesota. That's a 3 o'clock first pitch. You can see it on the MLB network. In the association, the Grizz trying to snap a 3-game skid as they go to Miami. That's a 6:30 tip. You can see it on TNT. 7 o'clock on the ice, the Predators head to Minnesota as well. So the Preds and the Astros will be hanging out as the Predators. No, I'm sorry. That's not Minnesota. That's Dallas. I'm showing my age there. The Preds go to Dallas taking on the Stars. That's a 7 o'clock start on FanDuel Sports. And at 6:05, the Nashville Sounds continue their series at Gwinnett. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. New England is all in on Drake May as QB1, which meant QB2 was expendable. Joe Milton, who formerly plied his trade on Rocky Top at the University of Tennessee, is now the backup for Dak Prescott as the Dallas Cowboys acquired him from the Patriots for a 5th-round pick in the upcoming draft. They sent a 5th-rounder to New England. They got Milton and a 7th-round pick in the upcoming draft. It's interesting to me because is Dak not coming off a season-ending injury, Wade?
Mm-hmm. Very much
so. So they are
injured.
So they are prepared for. I mean, you're one snap away if you're QB2 in Dallas, right? Or anywhere else, obviously. But I mean, particularly in Dallas with the oft injured Dak Prescott.
Yeah, Dallas going out and getting some protection here today.
Again, Joe Milton was a 6th-round pick by the Patriots last year after they took Drake May, number 3 overall? But completed 22 of 29 passes for 241 yards and a touchdown against the Buffalo Bills in the season finale. Now, the Bills were already locked in atop the AFC East, and I'm not sure exactly who was on the field for the Bills in that one. But regardless, I mean, 22 of 29 when accuracy was considered to be an issue for Joe Milton throughout his career at UT. So, and at Michigan before that, I guess, right, Wade?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the book on this guy is obviously a rocket arm. Pocket awareness and accuracy have kind of been the two real knocks against this guy. The attributes physically are there, no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. No, nobody questions it. The arm strength is not an issue for Joe Milton. But again, New England has Drake May, and speaking of UT quarterbacks, they signed Joshua Dobbs earlier this offseason. So they feel like their situation is in pretty good hands under center. And once the Cowboys lost Cooper Rush to Baltimore, they were in the market for a backup of some sort. Jacoby Brissett had been on their radar. He has signed with Arizona. Drew Lock has signed with was with the Giants. I'm not sure where Drew Lock is now. Trey Lance is a free agent. Apparently Dallas either opted against bringing him back or he opted against coming back. So here we are. Dak Prescott, Joe Milton. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't know that he necessarily needed a different place to be, but for the obvious reasons, you got to be intrigued by Joe Milton. But also, if Dak is healthy, you don't know how much you're going to see him. He's coming off of a torn hamstring, has missed games in 4 of the past 5 seasons. So you figure the second stringer is going to make it onto the field at some point, some kind of way.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of the ultimate insurance piece for Dallas. Obviously you are hoping, you are praying that Dak is healthy, especially after, sidling up all that cash to him last year. You're hoping that he's your guy, and you've kind of made that bed. But yes, grabbing a piece as a backup, and New England hit the jackpot with this pick, sixth round, seventh round last year.
Sixth round.
You find an absolute, diamond in the rough who sat as your third guy all season. And then in that last game, you mentioned, you told the tape perfectly, that game against Buffalo was exactly what Joe Milton needed to get some tape out there. New England was getting ready to move him, it felt like, no matter what, especially when you bring in Dobbs, who certainly has much more seasoning. You kind of feel like much more. So why keep Milton, who has kind of maybe shown he's got the chops to at least be a QB2 somewhere else, or in a pinch, fill in as the starter. This is a shrewd business move for the Patriots here. And Dallas does get the insurance that they're looking for as well. It feels like kind of a win-win for both.
I'm intrigued by Dallas getting Milton and a pick out of this. But good for them. Maybe Stephen Jones learned a little something from his daddy there. I'm not sure, but that's speaking of shrewd pieces of business, that's a pretty good one there. You got a backup quarterback and a pick for a pick. So
yeah, you move back. You move from the 5th round to the 7th round, and maybe Dallas is thinking, all right, well, we can go out and find the QB3. They got Will Greer on the roster right now, and in that 3rd spot. With Lance seemingly any day now set to announce he's going to the CFL here. So it's going to be curious to see. Who knows? When we talk 5th, 6th, 7th rounders, I feel like the pedigree for the Patriots was there for so many years. I don't know if it is still there. But, yeah, this feels like a win-win for everybody here. Dallas sending the 5th over, and New England getting something for a guy that they drafted so late last year. And you don't have to worry about any sort of QB controversy. Dobbs is about as squeaky clean as they get. He'll fill in only in break glass in case of emergency situations. Mm-hmm. Milton has so much untapped potential that you almost kind of want to just throw him out there just to see what he could do. And the last thing, if you're New England with May sitting there, you want to do is have Milton go off. And so it's a perfect situation for everybody, I feel like.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it works out well for Milton because he's in a different situation, and he's probably feeling like, again, he's going to get on the field at some point, and maybe he parlays another opportunity into something somewhere else. So we'll see how it all works out. But
one thing is for sure, the Jumbotron at Jerry World is now officially in danger. And when they open up the stadium, look out, that ball is going out of the roof with this dude throwing. He may not know what down it is and how many yards he needs, a la Tennessee versus Ole Miss, but he can throw the ball. The attributes are there, and the professional coaches are salivating about getting their hands on a guy with tools like that, and why not?
No doubt. Absolutely. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to Throwback Thursday, it'll be time for Coach's Corner and a visit with CPA baseball coach Larry NESBITT. Stick around.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, coming to you from our homes on what was a bit of a sunny Thursday. It's gotten kind of dreary looking out there of late, but hopefully the sun will get back out because there is some baseball to possibly be played today. And one of those games has our next guest, theoretically, heading north of town as top-ranked Christ Presbyterian Academy is set to travel to Davidson Academy this evening. We have with us the veteran coach of the Division IIA #1 Lions, as judged by the Tennessee Baseball Coaches Association, Larry NESBITT, joining us here on Coach's Corner. Coach, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Maurice, thanks for having me on. Appreciate all you guys do for Middle Tennessee sports.
Well, thank you. First off, what's the status of your 5 o'clock game at Davidson today?
No 5 o'clock game today. So we'll be having practice today here at 3:15 and get a little work done. But if there's anybody looking for a game on Friday or Saturday, please feel free to reach me out. I'm trying to find one.
There you go. Should we throw your number out there, Coach? Should everyone have it?
Hey, it's on Coach T. It's everywhere you can find it. So if anybody's
you know, right?
That's right.
There we go. Well, there are those that would argue, Coach, that y'all don't need a whole lot of work. What, 15-2-1?
Yeah, that's right. We've played a lot of games, but there's other teams out there that have played more games than us, and we like to play just like those teams do, and so we want to get all our games in.
A couple of 4-3 losses to Bob Jones out of Alabama earlier this month, and to Beach earlier this week, and then a 5-inning 1-1 tie against Rossview yesterday. I'm not going to ask you what's wrong, but I can see why you guys would kind of be in a hurry to get back out on the field, I guess. But it's been a nice season overall. That loss to Beach snaps a 3-6, a 9-game win streak for you, looks like.
Yeah, we're off to a good start. The main games for us are the region games. We've had 3 series in our region that have gone our way, and so definitely fortunate to have won those series. And outside of the region, we want to play the best competition that we can. Had the opportunity to match up with Bob Jones down in a tournament. First time we've ever played them before, and they're a great team. But this week has been awesome. We're off this week in the region, and if you don't know anything about Beach, they're a great team. We faced a crafty lefty. I think he was their number 2 pitcher. And then yesterday we faced Rossview, and they've got a sophomore left-handed pitcher. It's one of the best that we've seen. And facing teams like that, teams that are good baseball teams, anytime we can face a good pitcher, we're going to get better. But I just like playing baseball teams that love to play baseball, and they're going to continue to get better throughout the year.
Now, Beach has also got the kid that's committed to Kentucky, right?
Yeah, and if you had been to the game, or if anybody came to the game, they would have seen about 108 off the bat about 3 times. So that kid can really play. He can really hit. He's a big kid. But the other thing, too, he can run. He almost beat out a ball. I would say that he did beat out a ball to our second baseman, but Umpire called him out, so it went our way. But he plays really, really hard. He's a talented kid. There's a reason why he's a SEC talent.
So he beat out a ball that the umpire decided he wasn't supposed to beat out then, huh?
That's right. That's right. That's the only time we got him out that day, but we'll take it.
Absolutely. Coach, again, 15-2-1, and you've got some names over there that are kind of familiar to some folks, but tell us who is contributing to your success at this point of the season.
You know, it's really started with our pitching staff so far this year. So one of our primary pitchers is Eli Dickey. So R.A. Dickey's our pitching coach here, and his son is extremely talented. He's got in the 30s strikeouts. He's only got 4 walks this year. And so the other day he pitched versus Beach, didn't give up a single walk. So talented pitcher, just fills it up in the strike zone. And then the second guy behind him is Weston Williford, who just committed to Lipscomb University this week. And so same thing for him, 3 pitches, throws a ton of strikes. And then we've got a sophomore named Cooper Daniel that's kind of a Swiss Army knife, number 3/closer. He's built a lot like me. He reminds me of me, as a matter of fact, just a wiry kid that just pumps strikes, throws hard. So it really has started with our pitching staff, but obviously we do have some talented guys that hit also. We got a Dallas Baptist commit, Reagan McCluskey. Hudson Chance is going to UT Knoxville. And then we got a guy named Brock Bedingfield that's also going to Lipscomb. And by the way, he catches Weston Williford. So it's going to be neat to see them play together for the next 5 years. But I do want to point out, we got a lot of talented players, but our star players, team chemistry, you know? So these guys, although they're talented, they get along, they pull for each other. We've got 5 or 6 guys that are in a rotation that aren't even playing every day, one of which is the Belmont commit. So if you can imagine that, we have a junior on our team that's going to play baseball at Belmont. And, his name is Kyler Gorley, and he's playing, 50 to 75% of the time. And so it's just stuff like that that's making this team special.
Coach, you say all that, and you kind of talk about sounds like almost an embarrassment of riches a little bit. But I got to ask you, R.A. and Eli, they got some Giles County family down there. If you got too many arms, I feel like the Giles County Bobcats could take 1 or 2 of those guys off your hands there. I know R.A. would be like enjoying getting back to his family there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like Giles County. Don't get me wrong. We've played there a time or two, but I'd like to keep our guys, and that's honestly why I'm trying to find a game. We need to get these guys some work. So Eli and Weston have already pitched, but Cooper Daniel needs to get out there. We have a sophomore named Jack Van Norman that needs to get out there, and Tyler Hips needs to get out there. So we got 1 game tomorrow versus Franklin High School, but need to find another game so those guys can get on the mound.
I tried my recruiting pitch, Coach, but masterfully done by you. I admire that. I do want to ask you too, Coach. Obviously, you've had tremendous success. A decade plus worth of success there. How do you approach when you have that track record, state championship banners, all around the ballpark? When you have that track record, how do you approach and treat each team differently in your mind?
It's each team is going to have a different dynamic. I can tell you that this team, so our squad this year, the 2025 team, they are really, really mature baseball players. And so we have strong leaderships. I told them the other day at practice at the end of it that they didn't even need a coach this year. And that's the truth. That's not me trying to humble brag or anything like that. That's just the truth about these guys. We'll go out there and practice today. And if anybody was watching, you would see how hard they would strain. You would see that they're hungry to get better. And that's not coming from me or the coaching staff. That's coming from them.
Larry Nesbitt, CPA baseball coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Coach, you mentioned Eli, and you mentioned a bunch of guys that are in the rotation for you, aren't getting on the field on a regular basis. wanted to ask you, what is your approach with regard to pitchers only or pitcher only guys? Do you have a bunch of those, or do you have two-way guys, or how do you, is that dictated individually, or do you have a philosophy on that?
Yeah, we don't have a that's not something that the coaches make decisions about. We do let our players make those decisions, and so majority of the guys that come into us are two-way players. Eli, you mentioned, he was a hitter when he came into high school. The past 2 seasons, he's decided not to hit. He'll have that option to hit again next year if that's something that he wants to do. Weston Williford, our number 2, is the same way. He came in as a position player and a pitcher. He's backed off to focus on pitching, but I've noticed here recently that he's hitting in the cage and he's taking ground balls at first base, at second base, and that's all something that he's doing on his own. I think he probably sees some openings for next year where he might be able to hit, and so those are all decisions that that we allow our players to make. Cooper Daniel, by the way, our number 3, I expect that he'll be starting in the middle infield for us next year, so it's not something that we decide for our guys. Our guys will look at the roster and see what abilities they have, and it is pretty mature of them to be like, hey, I have this ability and I can help in this way, or I see this guy and he's probably got, he's probably better at this position than I am. I probably need to focus on getting better on the mound.
And I guess when you've got options, that's always a good thing. And Eli headed to Jacksonville State, committed as a junior to the Gamecocks down there. So, a lot of guys getting ready to go to the next level for you, looks like.
Yeah, like I mentioned, Eli Dickey, Jacksonville State, Weston Wilford, Lipscomb University. Coach Dickey is confident that Cooper Daniel is going to have an opportunity to pitch at the next level. Got a guy named Jack Van Norman we think can really do it at the next level. And then already mentioned Reagan McCluskey, Dallas Baptist, Hudson Chance, UTK, and Brock Bedingfield, Lipscomb University. The other one that I mentioned is Kyler Gorley, Belmont University.
Yeah. Again, as Wade said, an embarrassment of riches. And I guess when you get the RA stamp of approval, that certainly doesn't hurt. What's it like having a former Cy Young Award winner on your coaching staff, Coach?
Oh, it's unbelievable. He's an expert. And so to have an expert on your staff that you can turn things completely over to, I'm embarrassed to say that, there was a few years before him that I was the pitching coach, and I didn't know what I was doing out there, just trying to figure it out. But the other thing too about him, it's not just that he's an expert, it's his humility. So I'm shocked sometimes. Like, I'll watch our pitchers shake Coach Dickey off in the game, and I'll just be thinking to myself, why would you do that? And he's so patient about it, and he'll just come and talk to them, and they have the freedom to do that. I also want to mention too, he's not the only expert that we have on our staff. Our hitting coach is a guy named Brent Chance, and he studied a new swing out of Knoxville from 108 Performance, and he's become an expert on it. And so I do have a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator per se here at CPA, and they each have an hour a day to spend. Coach Dickey spends an hour a day with the pitchers, and Coach Chance spends an hour a day with the hitters, and I can just focus on installing team defense.
Seems to be a winning formula for you. Again, 15-2-1 to this point. Franklin tomorrow, big region matchup with Ainsworth, and friend of the show Jason Maxwell next week. Finish up with region matchups against Brentwood Academy and Lipscomb Academy. 3-game series for each of those. You got to like those 3-game series, I would think, Coach, for a couple of reasons. One, it really kind of gives you a better feel for who is the better team because it gets deeper into your pitching, I would guess. But also it eliminates any ties when you get ready for postseason play.
Yeah, that's right. So we had last year we went to a 2-game series, and there was a time last year where I thought that everybody in our region was going to be 6-6. Think about that for a second. So
My brain hurts.
yeah,
Yeah.
at the time we were halfway through. We were 3-3, and everybody else was right around that mark. And so, the 3-game series is stressful for a coach, just because every pitch matters, and you're trying to do your best for the team. And so, I'm wired. I'm a pretty stressful guy. I think I got cortisol shooting through my fingertips the majority of the day. But like you said, the piece of that I do really like is the best team's usually going to win in a 3-game series. So I do really like that part.
Do some of your Wednesday games wind up like Sunday games in the SEC, Coach, when you get to those third pitchers and you're getting into the bullpens and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it does for sure. That's why I was mentioned to you, Cooper Daniel. He's got a unique role because he's going to close for us on game 1 and game 2. All right. Well, if he throws too many pitches in game 2, or if he closes game 1 and game 2, he's not going to start game 3. And so that's when we've got to develop a fourth pitcher, and we have a good one in Jack Van Orman, and I've seen it in him, and he's done a great job so far. But you can imagine you got to have one of those Swiss Army knives on your team if you're going to have a closer and somebody that can start and pitch.
You're right. Coach, it sounds like a lot of the names that you've mentioned are underclassmen, which means that people are going to have to deal with y'all next year as well. I know you don't want to look that far ahead. You still got a lot of work to do this time around. But as a coach, what's it like to look around and see, a bunch of guys that are going to be back for you in 26?
Yeah, we look at 2-year cycles all the time with our coaching staff. So at the beginning of the year, we look at our 2025 team, and we also look at our 2026 team so that we have a good plan to develop those players. And all the time throughout the year, myself, Coach Chance, Coach Dickey, Coach Kelly, we're always talking about both the present year and the year after that, because we really have to continue to develop those players. It's one of the big reasons why we believe so much in the rotation. I mentioned to you earlier, we have 3 guys sharing 2 positions, and we have 2 guys sharing 1 position. So that's 5 players right there.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of them is a senior. So we have 4 guys that we feel good about being everyday players in 2026 because they've got so much varsity experience.
And everybody else in your region loves to hear that. Right, Coach?
Well, I'm sure they're doing the same thing, by the way. So all the coaches in our regions, you mentioned Coach Maxwell, but all of the coaches in our regions are really smart, talented baseball coaches that are a lot of fun to coach against.
Coach, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, and I guess it worked out a little bit better because you're not playing after all. But thank you for indulging us for a little bit, and wish y'all luck in getting back on the field and closing this thing out. We'll be keeping an eye on you.
Thanks for having me on. And again, thank you guys for all y'all do.
Yes, sir.
Larry NESBITT, Christ Presbyterian baseball coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Before we conclude this segment, we've got some awards that we need to present. We will start with our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Besides the military, there is no greater team building experience than athletics. Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game, and our In to Win Life Team of the Week, presented by Custom Stone Handlers, is the Columbia Academy Bulldog baseball team. CA, coming off of a Division IIA state championship, is now, they are 16-0 on the season, they're 17-0 on the season, which means they have a 26-game win streak because they closed out last season with 9 straight victories. last week they went 3-0 down in Alabama, defeating George W. Long 1-0, Bradford 12-0, and Albertville of Alabama 10-1. They are led by senior left-hander Jackson Lee and junior shortstop / pitcher Vanderbilt commit Gunnar Skelton. And again, they are rolling 17-0. They've got a game scheduled for 7 o'clock this evening against Summertown at their place. And if Richie Eastep has anything to say about it, they will get it played. So your Custom Stone Handlers End to Win Life Team of the Week is the Columbia Academy Bulldog Baseball Team. Our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week is independent sophomore Reagan Maxson, who last week went, well, she hit 667. I don't have the raw numbers. I think it was 12 for 18 with a home run, 2 doubles, 4 steals, 8 runs, and 4 ribs, helping Independence to a trio of wins in District 10 4A action. And helping Coach Shane Buchanan and the Lady Eagles out down there is sophomore Reagan Maxson, again, our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week. Congratulations to her. Congratulations to the Columbia Academy baseball team, our Custom Stone Handlers End to Win Life Team of the Week. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today. When we return, we will get into some Major League Baseball. Stick around.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
April 3rd, 2000, the Big Cat, Andres Galarraga, makes his triumphant return after missing the entire 1999 season because of a bout with cancer. Homering in the bottom of the 7th inning against his former team, the Colorado Rockies. The next batter, Andrew Jones, followed with a bomb of his own. Greg Maddux and Mike Remlinger held on for a 2-0 Atlanta Braves season-opening win. Galarraga, who hit 44 homers for the Braves in 1998, finished the year with 28 homers, 100 ribs to earn his second Comeback Player of the Year award. Played another 4 seasons before retiring in 2005. That was this day in Braves history. The Big Cat. one of everybody's all-time favorite Braves, was
Yeah,
only
he
there
was fun to
briefly.
watch.
Yeah, he was, man. A long and illustrious career with the Expos and Rockies before he came to Atlanta, moved over to the American League for a bit after that. Fun guy to watch. The Braves could use a little fun. They were having some fun last night. They were up 5-0 through 2 innings at LA after we had talked, Wade, about, maybe Tuesday with Chris Sale being their best opportunity for a victory, and they kind of let that one get away thanks to Mookie Betts. But Bryce Elder comes up and makes the start for the injured Ronaldo Lopez and kind of did what Bryce Elder does. Pitch shutdown ball early on. Braves again got out to that 5-0 lead, and then he kind of allowed the Dodgers to kind of play their way back into it. And eventually, if it's not Mookie that gets you for the Dodgers, it's probably going to be Shohei Ohtani. And sure enough, top of the 9th, first pitch of Raziel Iglesias' second inning goes deep to left field and out for a 6-5 walk-off win for the Dodgers. They stay unbeaten at 8-0. Braves stay winless at 0-7. Ugh. Just ugh.
Yeah, certainly not the start you wanted. And I mean, it reminded me of the famous Rudy Gay clip versus the Toronto Raptors. When I hear Ohtani's coming up to the plate, the fan goes, "Oh no, not this guy!" And I didn't even have time to really get settled in. I mean, the Dodgers are a wagon. Everybody kind of, if you were looking for the first, 8 to 10 games, first week and a half of the season for any sort of weakness, they don't really have one at the moment. Presumably, a little crack may develop here and there, but right now, they look like the juggernaut that a lot of folks, if not everybody, thought they would be. And Atlanta's kind of, man, the good news for Atlanta is no one is, you're not in the same division as an 8-0 team. And the Phillies are locked in a close game right now. Marlins are playing some scrappy ball, but it could be a lot worse in terms of the division, the rest of the competition in the division, I feel like.
If you're Atlanta, you take a little heart in the fact that you chased Blake Snell. You scored 5 runs off of him in 4 innings. You got him out of there. Now, none of those was earned, but runs are runs, and they don't count any less because they are unearned. Again, you're up 5-0. You got him out of there. You got into their bullpen, but you've got to continue to add on. You can't get complacent. And the Braves had some opportunities, even in that first inning when they scored 2 runs. Brian De La Cruz got thrown out at the plate to end the first inning on Nick Allen's 2-out double that scored Matt Olson and made it 2-0. Could have been 2-0 with a runner at third and 2 outs, and just continuing to move things along. Instead, it's 2-0 and you're going back out. Top of the 6th, you've got bases loaded, nobody out, and the meat of your order, because Marcell Ozuna flies out to center. Austin Riley gets a called third strike at the bottom of the zone that may or may not have been a strike, but it's a full count. Maybe you don't take that pitch. And then Olsen pops out to short to end that threat. Atlanta 5 of 15 with runners in scoring position. They left 9 runners on base in a 1-run loss. So, as a high school softball coach said to me a couple of weeks ago, we left a lot of runners on, but we had them out there to leave. So, gotta start somewhere, I guess. I don't know. And to your point, Wade, the Dodgers are 8-0. The San Diego Padres are 7-0, and those are the 2 teams that Atlanta started the season against. Now, did they take advantage of Atlanta, or did they do what they're going to do all year, and Atlanta just ran into the 2 best teams in the league to open the year?
And that's the question everybody's going to try and figure out over the next month or two, it feels like, right? Is San Diego legit, or have they just gotten off to a fast start and cashed in? L.A., you kind of almost throw out. They came in with the 2 wins from overseas and came back and didn't miss a beat, seemingly. So kind of wild. And we talked about the FanGraph playoff projections yesterday. This one's kind of mind-boggling. The Dodgers, granted, they're the only 8-0 team in the league, but they're sitting there at 98.6% to make the playoffs. But the Diamondbacks at 4-2, technically, according to FanGraphs, at 63.9% are slightly ahead of the Padres, who are 54%. So I love looking at all this stuff. It means absolutely nothing, especially 3 days into the month of April. But kind of fascinating how it all plays out. And just looking across the divisions, we talked about the Cubs who started 0-2. Now somehow, some way, they've scrapped their way to a slightly winning record, and they're atop the division. I mean, it's not an insurmountable climb by any means for Atlanta, just because no one's really kind of especially the Mets. The Mets would be the team that I would be concerned about because, number one, you're chasing them, and number two, on paper, that was the other competition besides Philadelphia, seemingly. So the fact they haven't really been able to cash in on Atlanta being 0-7, that's got to be at least a little comforting.
Yeah, and it's got to be a little concerning for the Mets, I would think, as well, to your point. So what does it – it was 72% for the Braves yesterday. What is it today, Wade?
Slight dip, 69.1%.
But for a team that's winless, I mean, that's encouraging. Maybe they're just looking at the schedule. Maybe they're looking at Acuna and Strider. I don't know, but that's it's intriguing to say the least. And I'm glad you look at that stuff because we will certainly keep an eye on it. San Francisco 6, Houston 3. The Giants with 3 long balls in that win, and Valdez was, all over the place. 9 strikeouts, but when he wasn't striking folks out, he was getting touched up. 5 runs in that 6-3 loss for Houston. Yeah,
tough series for Houston, and it doesn't diminish the disappointment. But man, I'm kind of impressed, and I'm kind of all of a sudden. I'm glad we got the MLB-TV cranked up because, I mean, these late-night games are going to be a lot of fun, it feels like, between the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. Those 3 teams have gotten off to flying starts in that division. Houston kind of back to the drawing board here. Kind of gross. You got the Twins, who is a team you should kind of take advantage of. And if you win, no one's really going to clap for you. And if you lose, it's going to get worse. So they're in a tough spot right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, the Braves are off today before they get Miami coming to town for 3 in their home opening series. So you feel like, if you are a Braves fan, hope springs eternal right there. But goodness, if you somehow drop this series to Miami on top of everything else, then it feels like the walls kind of start closing in on you real quick. So big weekend here in the second weekend of the season down at Truist Field. Milwaukee did not win that game in the 10th when they had the bases loaded yesterday against Kansas City, but they did win it in the 11th, 3-2 the final, as the Brewers take care of the Kansas City Royals there, picking up a second win and, kind of putting the torpedo bat talk a little bit further behind them for sure.
Yeah, torpedo bats, that's a blip in the radar now. We'll never be discussing them again. But you're right. Props to the Brewers for battling back, man. When they did not score in the 10th, it felt like that, especially with the rules the way that they are. It felt like this was pretty much game over. But no, they bounced back, and that was a little bit of a gritty win versus a Royals team that, on paper, coming into this season at least, was supposed to be pretty sharp. So nice effort there for the parent club of the Sounds there.
Absolutely. They get Cincinnati and Ellie De La Cruz coming to town starting tonight, so that'll be fun. Keep up with that one through the highlights and that kind of thing because Ellie is something to watch, man. You mentioned the Cubs coming back from that trip to Tokyo and the devastation that the Dodgers left them in. Well, they swept the host Athletics at Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento, 10-2 yesterday's final. So that was kind of good for what ails you. Maybe the Athletics again, and it's kind of the word that I've landed on here over the last few days. Intriguing from the fact that they spent some money over the offseason that you did not necessarily expect them to spend, especially considering they're going to be spending the next 3 years in Sacramento. But again, not a great start for them in a Western division that seems like it could be kind of bunched up if they can hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, and this is still kind of in those too early to tell moments because it feels like Chicago. Quite a few folks had predicted them to win the Central. So on paper, you're thinking that goes there. You're not on paper thinking up giving 35 runs in 3 games. I can tell you that much.
No,
but I am proud. The system is 1-0, and this is the one I'm keeping track on. I told you guys a couple days ago about the short fences, the warm temperatures. Keep your eye especially on the day games out in Sacktown. The over-under was 8.5 yesterday, and the Cubs bashed their way to that themselves. So I'm going to be tuned into some day games for the Athletics as the season rolls along here.
Once it starts warming up out there, absolutely, yeah. The Sounds 0-2 in Gwinnett so far. They lost 5-1 Tuesday. That included a Sean Murphy home run as the Braves catcher is on a rehab down there. 4-1 in yesterday's day game. They try to get in the win column here tonight. That's a 6:05 start. Rumor has it that Spencer Strider is starting tomorrow's game for the Stripers 1P. Jeff Ham can tell us more about that when we speak with him at 2:20 tomorrow. So be sure and tune in for that. And a college baseball note from the weekend. Liberty and Jacksonville State playing Conference USA baseball over the weekend. Liberty had won the first game 9-8 in 10 innings. They take the field on Saturday for game number 2. Ben Blair gets the start for the Flames. He throws one pitch, and Jacksonville State coach, former Nashville Sounds catcher Steve Beazer, calls the umpires in and says, this guy ain't on the roster. You are required to turn in a 27-player roster prior to the start of the series. Somehow Liberty neglected to put its Saturday starter on the roster. Throws one pitch. After much conversation and phone calls, that game is a forfeit by Liberty to Jacksonville State. Jack State, they decided to go ahead and play the second game since they were there and since there was expected inclement weather on Sunday. The Gamecocks win that one 6-1 to win the series by virtue of that forfeit and then that 6-1 win in the late game on Saturday. Going into our Friday game, the first thing I do is I want to know what their 27-man roster is so I can make plans for the series, Beazer said. I realized that a guy they told us that they were going to start was not on the roster. When I saw him out on the mound, I knew it wasn't okay to not be on the roster and walk out and throw a first pitch. I wasn't 100% on the verdict, whether the next pitcher comes in and you keep going, or if Conference USA has a rule that it's an automatic forfeit. I think Steve Beazer is being a little disingenuous. I think if he knew the guy couldn't pitch, he knew what the penalty was for him pitching. No doubt. He went to the Dan Lanning School of Dark Arts. He knows the rules. I'm kind of shocked to learn that this is the penalty. I mean, I don't, it feels a little overstepping the bounds. I don't necessarily know what the real solution is, intentionally walk the first couple guys, slow pitch softball style. I don't know what's at play here, but it feels a little disingenuous. You just conveniently waited till that pitch got tossed out before you. Yeah, because you could have very easily said, hey, this guy in warm-ups, this guy ain't on the roster. What's up? And maybe that's what you do in Saturday rec ball, but maybe that's not what you do in Conference USA college ball. I don't know. Maybe the penalty fits the crime. I don't know, but it seems a little draconian, doesn't it, Wade? It does, and I also found it shocking. 9-0 is the official score. Is that right now? I guess like 1 run per inning. I guess I don't know. I would have thought it would be 1-0, but I was thinking 3-0 for give a little extra juice there, but. Yeah, maybe not. I was getting ready to joke and say, win at any cost in this league, assuming Dallas Baptist to take care of business. But it's a 4-way tie at the top. Western, Dallas, Florida International, and La Tech all sitting there at 4-2.
and Jack State in a pack of others at 3-3. So, maybe they're not just chasing. Maybe, you need wins, but any way you can get them, no matter who you're chasing, I guess.
Absolutely. So there you go. Hour number one here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, is in the book. Hour number two will get underway when we come back from this break, and it is Throwback Thursday. We'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation we had with JAMESETTA Cleveland of Sports Mom U. If you have a college athlete, if you have a high school athlete with designs on playing collegiately, you may want to check this out. Stick around when we come back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Have with us the founder of Sports Mom U, JAMESETTA Cleveland. Always a pleasure to have JAMESETTA on with us. Ms. Cleveland, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you doing?
We're
good.
Doing well.
How you doing?
We're doing great. Hey, before we get into our topics, JAMESETTA, for those who aren't aware, tell folks about Sports Mom U.
Well, Sports Mom University is a boutique athletic consulting firm for sports moms. And what I do is I help sports moms and their families understand who they are and how they prefer to show up in the world so that they can establish an identity outside of sports. And once they know who they are outside of the game, we pivot to help them make the right, I won't say right, but the appropriate athletic, academic, and entrepreneurship decisions. I actually provide sports moms and their families with the tools to help the 17-year-old child that you gave birth to, who's amazingly talented, make the appropriate decision that's going to benefit the 40-year-old that he or she is going to be.
That's awesome. And this was something I love this story, and that's why I ask you to tell it whenever we get you on, because this was something that you kind of happened on while you yourself were going through that experience with your son Ronald.
Yeah, I truly have my consulting firm because of my life. I have 3 children, and all of them had to do something athletic. They didn't necessarily have to be good at it, but they had to do something athletic. And I had some amazingly talented children. And I went through the recruiting process with my oldest daughter, Synovia, for cheerleading and track. And she decided, hey, I don't even want to do sports in college. I just want to do music. And I'm like, okay, you got to live the life, not me. And then I went through the recruiting process the second time with my son for football and basketball. And I noticed immediately that it is a very different process when you're dealing with the revenue generating sports. And I also noticed that very few people really understood that I wasn't raising athletes. I tell my kids all the time, nobody's going to want to know Jesus because of how you jump over a hurdle or how you make a tackle. That's just not how that's going to happen. And that's our most important thing, to make disciples. And so when I came to people and I said, my kids are good at this, but they can stop anytime, very few people understood that mentality. They either wanted me to pay them to do the recruiting process, or they wanted me to pay them to train my children for athletic purposes. And so because I didn't find what I was looking for, the place you go when you realize that you're not raising an athlete, you're raising a whole person who just happens to be really good at their sport, but maybe they don't want to play it professionally, or maybe they do, but nobody retires. Even the oldest professional has to go pro at life. So I built what I actually didn't have. I took a sabbatical. And I had what I call my adventure year, where I said I would not set my alarm clock. I'd only do the things that made me happy. And I did an event called High School Football Mom 101. And people actually bought tickets. And after the event, someone said, this little thing you've been doing, putting moms in the spaces of people who can answer their questions, you should really pray and see if that's what God called you to do. And I have been praying ever since August of 2019, building slowly but surely what I didn't have. And I just told a group of moms last night, if you stick with me, I will teach you how to manage your sons and daughters in a way that honors how God created them to be.
I love the way you put that, JAMESETTA. And from a business standpoint, I love that, just because the authenticity behind it, right? I mean, you laid everything out so emotionally and kind of authentically there that it'd be hard not to want to savor up everything that you're saying, because I mean, you've been through the trials of all that.
I actually, we're going to talk about, the rules, and that's the one thing that no one tells you. We often, as parents, start the recruiting process. We don't even know that we've actually started it, but we're in it, and we're woefully ignorant about the process that we're in. And there isn't a real place where people will sit you down and say, well, this is what it means to be a red shirt. This is what it means to be a qualifier. This is when you're not qualified. This is what the NCAA Eligibility Center is. This is what it means to actually be eligible. And hey, by the way, that doesn't mean that your child can graduate. And it even doesn't mean that they can get into college either. So you have to weigh out, okay, what does my state say that I need to graduate? What does the NCAA say I need to be eligible? And what does the college say that I need to do to be admitted? And so there wasn't a place. And then there wasn't a place that really just says, kid, you're really good at this sport, but you can stop it if you want. You can do something different if you like. So it's been interesting just to see that was my biggest gripe. Who teaches me? And when I look in the space, very few, they're not teaching us. There's just not the place. And so again, I keep giving classes because we need someone to tell us, because what we don't know in the recruiting process can actually damage our child's opportunities for the future.
And what's crazy about that, JAMESETTA, is the people who have that knowledge, it's not necessarily advantageous to them to share it. So there's that portion of it as well. But you know, it's an interesting time for someone like you to come onto the sports landscape, just because there is so much going on collegiately. I mean, I reached out to you yesterday about this visit, and this morning an article comes across the Associated Press headline: NCAA agrees to lift name, image, and likeness recruiting ban. Supposedly it was illegal for prospective athletes to enter into an NIL deal before enrolling at a specific college. And that's going to come as a shock to a number of college athletics fans that it doesn't work that way, or wasn't supposed to work that way. Well, now it doesn't work that way because the NCAA has gotten rid of that rule that nobody was following anyway.
And you can thank the University of Tennessee. They are the direct reason that is happening, because they did not, I cannot pronounce his last name properly, but their quarterback, Nico.
Join the club.
Who you mean?
They were UT's coming off the sanctions and the money they had to pay for Jeremy Pruitt. And, you know, in the sports world, especially if there's a lot of money involved, if you do things that are not above board, people always turn you in. And so this young man is rumored to have, I've not seen it, he's rumored to have an amazing amount of money that has been given to him by the collective that supports UT Spire. And UT was just getting an investigation because as he was traveling to the University of Tennessee for his visits, he was actually on a plane owned by a booster. And I mean, it's really great. That is really how you wine and dine. You put him on a private jet, and there's no better feeling, right? However, money from boosters, and it, you know, a lot of places, collectives are considered boosters. So, you know, that is really what people use to actually get recruits to sign. You want to be wine and dine. You want to be made to feel special. And so rather than pay additional dollars and perhaps lose bowl eligibility, our state attorney general sued. And here we are.
I'm not sure how I feel about it, because I feel like NIL, the objective of it was you get on campus, you demonstrate your worth, and you get paid from there. But it wasn't really working out that way. And so this is more in line with the reality of the situation, I guess. Is that fair to say?
So in my world, I always differentiate. There is a difference between NIL, true NIL, and it's really cool because the lawyers are picking up my term. I've been using true NIL for 4 years now, and here they are. So there is a distinct difference between true NIL and what collectives do. And I might be making someone feel bad, and I don't really care, but it's really legalized pay for play and inducements. And so the system was not, in theory, when you listen to Judge Claudia talk about what she perceives and what she understands and what we are supposed to be doing with name, image, and likeness, and how the universities and colleges that are member schools of the NCAA, and also how the NCAA itself, how they have designed a system that doesn't honor it. We really don't see at the collegiate level, especially in football and basketball, we really don't see true NIL. We see collectives that are giving a lot of money to young men and young women. And so for me, the missing piece isn't even proving your worth the way you play on the field, because just yesterday, a manager, I want to say is at McNeese, became the first manager to actually get an NIL deal. What people need to understand is true NIL is business-based. And since people like to talk about deals, the best model that I could say is the influencer model. You build a community, you build a following, people are interested in you. And because of that, businesses like to sell things. So they'll find a popular person. We have yet to truly implement that, the true model of NIL, where it's business. It's either a business that you partner with, a business that you start, or a business that says, hey, I want to base my business concept and idea off of you. So let's enter into a business relationship. That is true NIL. What we have is distinctly different. It's unfortunate. That is what most people see, but it is very distinctly different.
That said, JAMESETTA, what does this ruling change, or this, as they're referring to it, abandoning this rule?
So really what they're saying is that the NCAA can't enforce its bylaws. And we really knew that it couldn't enforce its bylaws before, because different states will pass laws. And in history, state laws have never superseded NCAA bylaws. I mean, the NCAA bylaws have, I said that backwards. NCAA bylaws have never superseded state laws. Mm-hmm. What really we need to do, and people are not very keen on this, is it's time to reimagine what college athletics is supposed to be. And I don't mean like what we're seeing where certain Power 5 conferences are flirting with private equity. That's not what I mean. It is okay for adults to admit the business model that we created however many decades ago, it fundamentally doesn't fit our current capitalist culture. And let's get together and let's make something new. Y'all are like, they're all bright. They are bright, but they are not using that brightness to really, truly reimagine what the collegiate world should look like. And because they aren't, we continue to have people taking pot shots at the NCAA. And that's unfortunate, but we're going to see more pot shots. We'll see a lot more.
JAMESETTA, I've kind of asked you this before, and I feel like I've asked it at least. When does the roller coaster kind of stop? Is there an inevitable point at which things kind of reach a little bit of a homeostasis? Because this has still kind of been such a wild phenomenon in the last 5 or 6 years. Is there at least a soft landing coming up soon, or are things just going to continue to evolve, and that's just kind of where it's going to be for the next decade plus in your mind?
I'm going to say that nothing that we're experiencing has to be this way, because influencer marketing currently takes place in all 50 states with no problem. People do it all the time. The building of businesses, starting businesses, investing in businesses, even people partnering and saying, hey, I want to model something off you. It happens in all 50 states all the time without a lot of chaos. The problem in the collegiate model is that people genuinely don't want to let go. They don't want to really share resources. They could do something really simple, like say, if you're a student athlete, your minor must be entrepreneurship or business. And as a part of that minor, we're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about digital marketing and digital strategy. We're going to talk about storytelling. We're going to talk about how you set up your budget. Like, these are classes that are already taught at universities. You don't need anything new. You just need to align a major and say, this is something that you're going to need to do if you're a student athlete. I've heard too many people say, well, schools can't require certain classes. Well, you can. You do it all the time. You do it all the time. But we can't do that. But you could. You just simply don't desire to do so. And you don't desire to let go of the bulk of the revenue that goes to colleges, universities, and the NCAA. And you haven't figured out how to fund Olympic sports differently than they're funded today. So we're going to keep having, my grandma used to say, some people have to lose it all and hit rock bottom. The NCAA and its member schools have not hit rock bottom yet.
JAMESETTA Cleveland of Sports Mom U joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. JAMESETTA, another clarification point of guidance maybe that the NCAA issued, I guess here in the last week or so, regarding transfers of student athletes from non-NCAA institutions, be it NAIA or junior college, who would have finished their eligibility during this current academic year. They've been apparently approved for one more year of eligibility, with some exceptions. It's a little convoluted, but if you were at a junior college or in an NAIA program during the COVID year of 2021, no, I'm reading that wrong. See, players whose only season of non-NCAA competition was the COVID year cannot play in the 2025-26 season. So anybody else whose final year of eligibility would have been this year will get one more year, apparently. Is that, how do you understand that?
So I would tell everybody the Q&A for this discussion is out there. It is really in your best interest to read the Q&A. In a nutshell, the way that I understand this is it is not what everyone thinks. It's not all junior college. It's not all NAIA. And it's one of the things people are leaving out. International students are included in this. So it's not even all international students. You have to first ask yourself, am I a student who, one, is at the end of my eligibility? This year would be the last season that I'm able to play at a Division I institution. And if it is, did I at any point in time, did I attend a non-NCAA institution for at least one season? That could be a junior college, that could be an NAIA school, it could be their plethora of other leagues. It could also be an international institution. But not just did I attend those places, have I met the requirements for progress towards degree, and am I otherwise academically eligible, and do I meet all the other bylaw eligibility requirements? And if I do, and this was the last season that I'm going to get, then I get one more year. If you are, let's just say you are a kid who went from a DT school, a D3 or D2 school to a Division I school, you don't get an extra year. Or let's just say you're currently at a Division II or Division III school. They also have the option. So let's just say you went from junior college or an international institution or an NAIA school to a D2 school or D3 school. You're at the end of your eligibility, but you have developed beautifully and somebody at the Division I level wants you. Those kids also get an extra year of eligibility as well, provided there is a Division I school that says, hey, we have a spot for you over here, and you're definitely going to play. But you still have to meet some requirements. Progress towards degree is, unfortunately, because we have so many kids transferring multiple times, progress towards degree is one of the things that is hitting up a lot of kids right now. In my world, it's progress towards degree, because that you have to get if you don't meet that, then that's a whole separate waiver process.
Interesting. As always, when we get JAMESETTA Cleveland on with us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. JAMESETTA is the founder of Sports Mom U, but she wears many hats, and a lot of those probably come as a result of Sports Mom U. One of those is her work with the Tennessee Minority Coaches Association, and that organization has a coaching clinic coming up Saturday on the Vanderbilt campus. JAMESETTA, tell folks more.
Yes, so our founders, Dwight Hunley Jr. and Rodney Salisbury, had an idea of having coaching clinics. And because we're such a spread out state, we wanted to do it central so that all the coaches could attend. So we did our first one in February at University of Chattanooga. But this Saturday, March the 22nd, from 9 to 4, maybe 4:30, we will be having our Minority Coaches Association of Tennessee Coaching Academy in partnership with Clark Lee and Vanderbilt University Football. Tickets are still available. You can find them on my social media and also on Eventbrite. So really excited about the lineup that we have. And it's an opportunity it's open to coaches at all levels, whether you're a rec league coach or a high school coach or a college coach. We all have to get better. Whether you're a coach of a flag football team, we want to grow the game. Whether you're the coach of a flag football team or a tackle football team, we want you there. For ladies that are listening, because in Tennessee and other places, we have women's tackle football at the professional level, those coaches are welcome as well. We're going to, of course, talk some X's and O's, but the thing I'm most proud of is that we're going to talk more than X's and O's as well.
Awesome. JAMESETTA, always in the middle of some good stuff. And her work with Sports Mom U is admirable, and I love where it comes from. So always happy to have you on with us and keeping an eye on you. We appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon and look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Always fun when we get to catch up with JAMESETTA Cleveland, and so knowledgeable about so much, off the court and field and that kind of thing in the college athletics games. So always a lot of fun. Again, always a lot of fun when we're able to catch up with at Sports Heather on Twitter or on X. Not sure exactly what kind of mood she's in today with her Royals having just dropped the last couple to Milwaukee. But Heather Williams joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, talking a little NASCAR.
Life of a Royals fan. Build me up just to let me down. It's like Buttercup. By the way, it is so apropos that I am here on a Throwback Thursday because it is Throwback Weekend in NASCAR Darlington. And I know, I don't know how long your NASCAR fandom goes back. I know Mo has absolutely no reference whatsoever. But there are some absolutely amazing paint schemes that are going to be running on the 2 series this weekend at Darlington. There is the number 4 car in the Xfinity series is a Morgan McClure Motorsports Kodak Throwback. I think it's supposed to be Ernie Irving's Kodak Throwback paint scheme. Absolute fire. And then Austin Cindric's Cup Ride, the number 2, is a throwback to Dale Earnhardt's 2, and it is absolute fire. And there are some others that are really cool too. And then there are about 17 cars that are party poopers that won't be doing throwback schemes, mostly because of their sponsors. But it's going to be such a fun weekend. Throwback Weekend is one of the greatest of the year.
You hit some of the highlights, Heather, and I think Dale Earnhardt, obviously the famous number 3, of course. I mean, that's iconic. But I also think Ricky Rudd, who we just talked about not too many weeks ago, and the Tide car and the Sterling Marlin Kodak is one that those kind of channel memories for me.
And there's also the Hendrick Motorsports 5 Terry Labonte Kellogg car. That's got
that one was a good one too.
That's pretty great. There's actually a lot of really good ones this year. I'm pretty excited about it because
the Frosted Flakes car, right?
Yes. Another one that's really good that I saw today is Harrison Burton is throwing back his dad's car, his dad's Exide car in the Xfinity series, and that is a good looking car too.
I'm kind of partial to Eric Jones's number 43.
Oh yeah, that's always great. But see, the thing about that, the 43 is that it's easy, right? Because the King is still involved in that team, that race car, that team, and the Petty Blue is a thing often on that car. They always look sharp, but that one's easy. It kind of escapes my mind just a little bit because it's so easy to do. Never out of style, classic for sure. But some of these teams really have to work hard with different numbers and with sponsors and stuff to make those paint schemes happen. And so the Petty one does look great, though. You're right. It is another good one.
Sammy Smith's number 8. You can go to NASCAR.com and see all of these, actually. But Sammy Smith's number 8 looks pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, there's also one that's oh gosh, I can't remember which. There's just a ton of them that are really good. I think you mentioned it. The Ricky Rudd car is great. They've outdone themselves. I will say the funniest tweet, because apparently the sponsors at Spire didn't want to participate. The funniest tweet I've seen this week is Spire Motorsports tweeted, throwing it back to Homestead 2025. And then because it was the paint scheme from like 2 weeks ago. Same ones.
Wow. What's up with the party poopers?
I mean, these sponsors pay a lot of money to be on the cars. And, sometimes it's just not possible to integrate their logos and their paint schemes and stuff with a throwback idea. And so sometimes it just doesn't happen. The Spire cars don't have them. I know the 2311 cars don't have them for sure. Those are the 2 biggest teams I can think of that don't have throwback paint schemes this weekend. Both those have in the past had them, but it's just kind of sponsor dependent and if they can make it work with the sponsor that's on the car that weekend.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's interesting. And
producer Mark wants to chime in with Texaco 28. Show a little love there.
I mean, the list is endless. There are a couple there's a couple I don't get, if I'm being completely honest. I do not get Chase Elliott's. I think it's a little bit on the lazy side, the 9 throwback. And there was another one that was just like, eh. But for the most part, they're really good. I always love this just because I'm such a history nut, just to see the cool things that folks come up to, and personal things too. There are people throwing back to one I forgot is before I get on that tangent, is the 21 car, throwing it back to the Indy car that the Wood brothers pitted in IndyCar that won the race. The Wood brothers actually went over and pitted IndyCar for a while, and they pitted one that won the race, and they are throwing back to that. That's another one. But there were also some with personal connections. This is my grandfather's paint scheme that ran late models, or this is my great uncle's scheme that ran, midget cars or whatever. It's just really neat to see the paint schemes, the stories behind them, and why certain drivers chose them. And it shows a little bit about their personality too, which is great.
Josh Berry's number 21. I don't know if we mentioned that or not.
Yeah, that's the one that's the IndyCar throwback one. Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay. That's wild looking. Yeah,
it's awesome.
Do they make matchboxes or whatever out of all of these and sell them at a later date, or how does that work?
I don't know if Lionel does the throwback ones or not. I guess that for sure, if one of them would win, there would be one. I don't know. I guess kind of demand related on the other ones, but definitely if one of them ends up in victory lane, there'll be a die cast for that.
Hey, one final throwback question I had, Heather, is who makes the call on this? If the driver really wants to, are they just SOL if the ownership doesn't want to, or if the owner wants to and the driver doesn't want to? How does this dynamic kind of go on the?
It's a collab between driver, owner, and sponsor. I mean, the sponsor is really the one that's got the biggest veto power, because at the end of the day, they've paid millions of dollars for a driving billboard in a race. And if the idea doesn't fit with their sponsorship, then they can't do it. And some of the sponsors are getting a little bit creative. Like if you look at the number, I think it's the number 4 of Noah Gregson, he's running a sponsored throwback. So it's an old Long John Silver's logo. Long John Silver's is the sponsor. So it's like a 1980s looking Long John Silver's logo. So it's not a throwback to a car, it's a sponsored throwback, which is cool. I think it's still within the spirit of the weekend. But the person who has the biggest say in whether or not they do it or not is the sponsor. And then if the sponsor's cool with it, then it's kind of a collab between owner, driver. Who do we want to honor? What can we do? What do we want it to look like? That kind of stuff.
Makes sense. I'm just picturing a real feud breaking out. I don't want to drive this car. Well, guess what? You're gonna have to drive this car this week. So.
Or we can find somebody else to drive it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the drivers are enough into the history of the sport that most of them are pretty cool with. I think I've ever heard of a driver not being enthusiastic about the throwback that they're running. Usually the owner tries to make it something that's apropos either to the team or to the driver, one or the other.
Cool. Heather Williams coming in hot on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Had some stuff to get off of her chest, but let's go back to Martinsville for just a second, Heather. Denny Hamlin getting his first win there in 10 years?
10 years, which was crazy when they said that stat, because you really think of Denny as being like the master of Martinsville, right? They might as well just, cross off Martin and call it Denny'sville. He's so good there, but he hasn't found victory lane in 10 years. Definitely dominated in his return to victory lane. He clearly had the best car of the week.
What do they do with those grandfather clocks? I mean, how do they get them from the track to their home, that kind of thing? Because grandfather clocks by design, they're really sensitive. I mean,
they're shipped.
How do you get it home and keep it running?
They're shipped to the houses. In fact, it's so funny. I took a picture and somebody else beat me to it. After victory lane was all cleaned up, the clock was still sitting there on pit road, waiting for the person who was shipping it to come pick it up and take it so it could be shipped. Little secret about that, there is actually somebody that stands behind the clock in victory lane and holds it so it doesn't fall over. Just like a little inside baseball. They just have to stand there and hold the back of the clock and hold it up, because they are very sensitive and you don't want it to topple over and for it to break. Most of the drivers keep them in their houses. Mostly when you ask them, Denny now has 6 of them in his house, just in different places, which won't that be fun for him on daylight savings time? Oh. I mean, to set 6 of those things. But
You hope they're all on the same time, because you don't want those things going off at like 4, 5, 6 different times or whatever. So yeah.
Well, no, the thing is that I have not a full size one, but I have a desktop clock, that winding clock. Those things slow down over time. So I'm sure they're all off. If they're actually running, and mine runs about 3 times a year because it gets annoying to wind that thing up. But they start to slow down. So I'm sure they are dinging at different times. I do think that in Hamlin's case with his 6, he has a big enough house. He probably doesn't hear all 6 of them going off.
Okay.
He can't even hear them.
So here's the next question. Which media outlet got a picture of Denny with the grandfather clock, his first win at Martinsville in 10 years, with the headline, "It's time"?
I don't know. Did somebody do it?
I don't know, but if they didn't, shame on them.
Everybody was too enamored by what happened before he got to Victory Lane when he pulled out the flag that the fan gave him before the race. It said 11 versus the world. That was really what everybody was talking about, and the headlines afterwards.
Okay.
I mean, which is also apropos considering he is fighting NASCAR, right? This is the first win since, he won last year 3 times, but it was early in the season. Since this really started to heat up and the rhetoric started getting a little ugly, this is the first time that he's been in Victory Lane since that's happened. So 2311's been there, but Denny himself, this is the first time since that's really started to happen. So I think a lot more people were focused on that, but I like that headline. I like that. I might save it for somebody else in the drought at Martinsville.
At Martinsville with the clock. Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. Again, Denny Hamlin winning, Christopher Bell second. Bubba Wallace for the second straight week finishes third. 4th and 5th are Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, Ryan Priest, Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe, and Todd Gilliland finishing out the top 10. Chastain with that 6th place finish for Trackhouse. Heather, you talk about how good Hamlin has been at Martinsville for such a extended period of time. What are your thoughts regarding back-to-back 3rd place finishes now for Bubba?
I mean, Bubba's been consistent in running well. He needs to get a little bit better at finishes, which I think he's finally getting, right? I mean, he's been a top 10 car. In fact, I think somebody tweeted out today that Bubba has the highest average running position, so where he is at any one point in the race, of all drivers. So he's been one of the fast cars. He's just had something happen where he hasn't finished where he's been running all day until the last few weeks. And so I think the 2311 is in a really good spot. And Bubba, more so than Tyler, he's actually outrunning his teammate at this point. So, I think fatherhood has been very good for Bubba. I think it's made him refocus his priorities. I think it's allowed him to stop sweating the small stuff, to let all the noise go away. You smile, Mo, because I think you know this, right? I'm not a parent, so I don't know this.
It will change your perspective. I can tell you that.
What I've heard is that it absolutely changes your perspective on life, and I think it's been really good for him because he just, when you see him, now, I mean, I've always gotten along with Bubba. We've always been cool, but just in general, he's just in a better place now. And so, and some of that's maturity too, right? I mean, he's 28, 29 years old now. So that also makes a huge difference. But I think this could be a really good year for Bubba. I do. I think he has a chance to make the playoffs, to win a couple of races, and maybe even advance into the 3rd or even the championship 4. I mean, I think it's going to be that good of a year for him if he stays in the place competitively with his new crew chief, as well as emotionally and personally that he's in right now. I think it's going to be a monster year for him.
Heather, I'm intrigued now, kind of at large, when you talk about parenthood or first parents, especially in NASCAR, for guys that like to go fast, I'm curious kind of how that, does everybody different? Do some guys, dramatically kind of change their demeanor or slow down and embrace that? I'm just curious if there's anything broad sweeping, or is everybody totally independent?
It's different. I mean, I do think that for a lot of them, it does make them, in racing, and this is going to sound funny, slowing down is not necessarily a bad thing. Because there were a lot of guys, and maturity and parenthood or whatever it is, as the guys get older, they figure this out. But there are a lot of guys when they first come into the sport. Let's look at like Carson Hocevar, because he's in this spot right now. They are a dart without feathers. They are fast, but they are wrecking things. They are getting into people. Ross Chastain was this a few years ago. They are pissing everybody in the garage off, right? They are just out of control. Slowing down, and I don't necessarily mean driving slower, but just slowing down your decision making, like a quarterback when they first come into the league and everything is 1,000 miles an hour. And then one point, the game slows down for you and everything's easier. The same as in racing. Once you either hit, whether it's through parenthood or just age or whatever it is, when you hit that point as a driver where things slow down for you a little bit, that's when you see the light come on. And that's usually why it takes drivers about 100 races for you to find out who they are as a driver. At the 100 race point, you can pretty much determine what direction this career is going to go. And so, Bubba's past that now, but you can see he had won races by then and he's winning races. So you could kind of tell which direction his career was going to go at that point. But I don't know what it is, but slowing down, whether it's maturity or parenthood or a combination of both, is good for most drivers, and you'll see it happen at some point. You saw it happen with Ross last year.
I mean, it reminds me of the quote, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right?
Right.
That decision-making slowing down for a sport that obviously is based on getting to the finish line first, those kind of micro changes that you can make in your scheme and in the way you approach race. I'm kind of fascinated by that from a psychological standpoint.
I'm not the greatest person to talk to about psychology because I have more issues than Time Magazine, but yes, that is correct.
I think it's something you should delve into because I think it's very fascinating as you walk through it. And I think, one, Wade does a great job with asking questions that I would never think about. But two, I'm fascinated by that. The maturity that comes with, parenthood. It's kind of forced on you. Trust me.
This is a total aside, but I'll just real quickly tell you that I covered a student athlete at Martin Methodist College who she had to give up a season to have her first child, and her major attributes on the basketball court were quickness and speed and athleticism. She came back, quote unquote, slower, but turned into a much better overall player. And I think that kind of seems, we're speaking in generalities here, but it kind of seems like the track that we're talking about.
I think some of that is because you rely so much on your quickness that you don't hone the other parts of your game, whether it's behind the wheel of a car, because Bubba is actually this year in way better shape. Physically, you can tell he's in better shape. He's actually doing workouts and getting up in the morning and doing things that he never did before. I mean, he did a little bit of it, but I don't think he took it all that seriously. You also see that in Chase Briscoe. And he's been a parent. He's got 3 kids, but he just had twins. But I think that for him, it's a little bit more of like moving to a new team, a higher ranked team, and needing to take this even more serious than he was before. And I think that's the maturity side of it, right? You have to, there's just things you can get a long way on raw speed and talent. There have been plenty of people that never lifted a weight in their life. I'm pretty sure Jimmy Spencer never lifted a weight. Ryan Newman probably never lifted a weight. I don't think that Martin Truex did a lot of that, to be honest with you. And you can be very successful on just God-given talent. But to be elite, unless you're just an unbelievable talent, you do have to put in the extra work. And I think a lot of that comes with maturity, especially in this sport where guys are professionals so young, right? Because NASCAR drivers, they turn, you start working on that track when you're 16 years old. You get approved to start running in NASCAR, quote unquote NASCAR, trucks, Xfinity, et cetera, when you're 18 years old. So, you're still a kid at that point. So maturity and developing those things happens. You really see that start to happen when these guys hit their late 20s.
Heather, when you dive into this on some of your podcasts, you be sure and attribute that to.
I'm not getting in on the podcast. It's really above my pay grade. Really, I can make observations as a journalist, but I don't really know. Now there are people. I mean, obviously, sports psychiatrists that work with these guys and all sorts of stuff. I know Bubba has worked with one in the past. I think Denny Hamlin has worked with one in the past that could probably give way more insight on this than me. I'm just making what would you call it? An educated observation.
Well, I think it's really fascinating as you walk through it. I know you don't like to make predictions, but what trends are you looking for out of Darlington this weekend?
Well, Denny Hamlin has the best average finish at Darlington of all drivers all time. This is definitely a Denny Hamlin type track. And given the fact that he just won and Bristol's coming up, he could have a Christopher Bell 3 in a row heater pretty easily. Like, these are 3 really good tracks for him. When you start looking beyond Denny, there's a lot of drivers. Most of them are older, kind of patient guys you think of are patient drivers that are really good there. Eric Jones, this is a fantastic track for him, though he's generally better in the night race in the fall than he is in the spring race. But he has not had a great start to the season, so he could be someone that might jump up to you and be like, oh, where'd he come from? Because he's very good at Darlington. Christopher Bell, really the Gibbs guys again, and Kyle Larson for sure out of the Hendrick guys. Should be up there. And I don't think it's a great track for Penske, but they're always have the ability to be a contender. And then I think Brad Keselowski, RFK, Chris Buescher, RFK, Ryan Preece, RFK, we don't talk about them a ton, but a pretty good track for Brad. And those 3 drivers are the kind of drivers that can find success at Darlington, because she's called Lady in Black, and she is a mean old lady. Like, you have to run up against the wall and she'll reach out and grab you 3 times a lap. Like, you're smacking the wall constantly. So it's tough. It's a tough day of racing. It's going to be hot, which will be another element in that. So, the strongest mentally and physically are usually the ones that have success at this track.
It's great. Heather Williams of WCYB-TV joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Heather, as always, we appreciate you and your insight. And since they're not playing the Braves or the Astros, go Royals, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Yeah, we could use some help. Although the whole division is 2-4, so at least there's that. Like, we're all 2-4. We're all just mediocre, miserable to start the season.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about mediocre or miserable right now, Heather. We're just going to skip that. And again, we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
All right.
See you, Heather.
Hey, final segment of the day comes to you right now. We're going to talk a little hoops to close out the show, because Belmont, as we mentioned during the rundown, fell short in its final game of the season, falling to Minnesota 75-63 in the championship game of the WBIT up at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Belmont outscored the Gophers 22-8 in the third after falling behind by as many as 24, but couldn't appreciably close that gap, wound up dropping a 12-point decision there. But hey, again, this is the deepest that Belmont has ever gone in the postseason. They went to the championship game of the WBIT, which, I mean, it wasn't the NCAA, but they had some moments. And as Wade pointed out, one of them was going up to James Madison and down in a team that had won 30 games on the season and had lost once at home, I believe. Is that right, Wade?
Mm-hmm,
so great postseason run, great season for Bart Brooks and the Bruins there. Congratulations to them.
No doubt. They deserved all the props and then some. Fell a little bit shy, but a magical run nonetheless. And hopefully this is something you can capture that momentum and bottle up some of it for a deep run next year.
Absolutely. And now, obviously, as is the case for everybody, the question becomes, who can you keep?
That's the only downside about playing a lot of games with a lot of eyeballs on them when every other coach is pretty much on the sideline or, sitting on their couch or watching your games. There's an inherent risk there, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. That's a tough one. The NIT on the men's side wraps up tonight with Tennessee Chattanooga and Cal Irvine facing off at Hinkle Fieldhouse. Big game for the Mocs, who again opened their run with that triple overtime win at Murphy Center over MTSU. The Mocs 28-9 on the year. UC Irvine 32-6. This ought to be a pretty good ball game, looks like.
Yeah, I think so. And Irvine is a favorite, but only small, 3.5. So Vegas at least thinks this is going to be a pretty entertaining one. And man, Hinkle Fieldhouse, for as historic as it is, kind of has reemerged a little bit. Haven't talked about Butler on the national stage, it feels like, in a while in men's basketball. So a chance to show off the goods there at the legendary barn.
Yeah, Irvine advanced with a 69-67 win over North Texas. UTC gets there by getting past Loyola of Illinois 80-73. So this Chattanooga team can be a pretty high-powered offense. Again, I watched them score 109 a couple of weeks ago. It was in 3 overtimes, but still. So looking forward to this one. Could be very entertaining. The college basketball crown continues. I think they are to the semifinals now. Semifinals will be no, I'm sorry. They're in the second round of quarterfinals. They played 2 quarterfinal games yesterday. Boise State defeated Butler 100-93. Nebraska defeated Georgetown 81-69. So you've got Cincinnati and UCF tonight, and you've got Villanova and USC at 9:30. No word as to whether Kevin Willard will be on the sideline for Villanova for that one, but both those games can be seen on FS1. Semifinals are on Saturday. Championship is on Sunday. Again, it's kind of run a little under the radar, but it's in Vegas. So
it's in Vegas, and Saturday should be fun because, man, they really kind of milk it and make you wait for those Final Four games. So you get 2 on the run-up if you're really jonesing for some hoops there on Big Fox coming up on Saturday.
Chris Beard is staying at Ole Miss. There are those that are saying he was never leaving anyway, but he's getting a raise, more resources for staff, i.e. more money, and a stronger NIL package, apparently. So Keith Carter and Chris Beard, buddy now, after Beard led Ole Miss to the Sweet 16 in his second year there. Again, A&M is open after Buzz Williams left to take over at Maryland, and it'll be interesting to see what direction they go in now since Chris Beard is off the board.
And, props to him for getting it done and kind of taking care of his folks, taking care of himself. Feels like Ole Miss, A&M fancies themselves a little more in the basketball realm. But expectations not too high just yet.
Yeah. Be something to keep an eye on. Thanks for joining us here on the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join us at 2 o'clock tomorrow when our guest will be Jeff Hem, Nashville Sounds play-by-play announcer, and Teresa Walker of the Associated Press as we talk a little baseball and a little women's Final Four. We'll see y'all at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Stay safe out there.